What if I told you that Capcom just did everything Naughty Dog should have done? And no, I'm not talking about graphics. I'm not talking about budgets. I'm talking about something way more dangerous. Respect. Because somehow, Resident Evil understands its main character better than The Last of Us ever did. My name is Asteroid and let's talk about it. Resident Evil Requiem versus The Last of Us Part 2. And why one feels like a celebration of its legacy, while the other feels like it did declare war on its own fans. Let's start with the biggest sin in modern gaming. Expectation versus reality. With The Last of Us Part 2, Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog told us something very clear. You'll still play as Joel and Ellie. Yeah, about that. Joel dies early, brutally, and then you're forced to play as the person who killed him.
Ten hours of Abby? 10?
Mel's pregnant.
Wait, what? Is that real? No joke, 10 hours with this character. Yes, it's real. Yes. You're gonna play the next 10 hours.
Not optional, not hinted, not honest, just bait. Now compare that with Resident Evil Requiem. Capcom said from the beginning you're playing as Leon and Grace. Well, not from the beginning, but I think you understand what I mean. And guess what? That's exactly what you get. No tricks, no bait, no gotcha, your favorite character is dead in 2 hours or less. Joe Miller, Joe Miller, Joe Miller. He wasn't just a character. He was The Last of Us! And Naughty Dog decided his end should be sudden, humiliating, and used as shock value. Now look at Leon. Leon is Scott Kennedy. Capcom treats him like what he is, a legacy character. In Requiem, Leon is broken, traumatized, physically declining, haunted by bioterrorism. But still, Leon. Not replaced, not disrespected, not discarded. Here's where it gets crazy. There's an alternate ending where Leon can die. And you know what happened? People didn't get angry. Why? Because it felt earned, it felt heroic, it felt like a conclusion. Joel's death felt like punishment. That's the difference. One is tragedy, the other is disrespect. Both games do the same thing on paper. You play as two characters, but the execution, night and day. In The Last of Us Part 2, you play as Abby Anderson, a character fans didn't ask for and are forced to empathize with. In Requiem, you play as Grace, and somehow she actually wins people over. Why? Because she complements Leon. She doesn't replace him. She earns her place. Abby feels imposed, Grace feels integrated. Here's something wild. Resident Evil Requiem gives you choice. You can influence outcomes, you can shape how things end. Imagine if The Last of Us Part 2 did that. Imagine if you could decide what happens to Abby, how Ellie responds, whether revenge is worth it. Instead, you just watch it happen. Let's talk reality. The Last of Us Part 2. Divided fan base, endless controversy, less enthusiasm for a sequel, remasters nobody asks for. Meanwhile, Resident Evil Requiem, consistent releases, strong sales, growing hype, possibly heading to Game of the Year. Capcom is building momentum. Naughty Dog is quiet, still living in 2020. Capcom doesn't disappear for a decade, they just drop games again and again and again. Naughty Dog, no new major release since The Last of Us Part 2, just remasters, TV show, and Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet, which still feels like a mystery box. This is the real takeaway. It's not about who is better. It's about understanding your own character. Capcom understands Leon. Naughty Dog misunderstood Joel. Because when you have a character like that, you don't just use them. You don't just shock people. You don't just subvert expectations for the sake of it. You respect them. So, yeah, maybe the real horror story is in Resident Evil. it's what happened to The Last of Us. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, share, and like, because clearly someone has to say this stuff.